Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there. Welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. Check in daily, all three channels, Evolutionary Energy Arts, EEARTS, and also the newest Hearts Home. Make sure you got the little bell clicked, so hopefully you'll get some notifications. So this is Dr. Tamitha Skov. And, interesting thing that we observe here, watch right up here. You see there's basically material that came out into prominence and then gets sucked into a polar vortex. Very interesting as you see this tweet. Talk about polar vortex material from a northern prominence just broke away from the main filaments, now circulating in a massive polar vortex around the north pole of our star. Implications for understanding the sun's atmospheric dynamics above 55 degrees here cannot be overstated. She is a space weather physicist forecasting aurora, GPS, HF radio, and radiation issues during solar storms. Okay. Well, the sun is actually doing some very interesting things nowadays. And again, we can't expect it in these times to stick to forecasts and models, but again, trying to understand the bigger picture is definitely fun and interesting. And this right here is timesnownews.com. Talk about polar vortex, huge chunk of the sun is broken off, and scientists are baffled. They are baffled yet again. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope made an unprecedented observation earlier this week to leave scientists concerned. Again, talking about what we just saw. And before we go to Cindy for her take from the guides and what she's picking up, multiple M-class flares, CMEs, were observed. Our star displayed high levels of activity in 24 hours to 12:30 UTC on February 9th, including multiple low-level M-class solar flares and CMEs observed on the southeast and southwest limbs. The largest of these flares was a M3.0, which is not huge. It's not an X-class, no, but still, in these times, it might not take too much, and we are in times of great change. And, we are expecting this change. We're expecting a lot of different things depending on who we've been listening to. Now, coincidentally or not coincidentally, Twitter went down worldwide. Why? You see this. Now, I didn't have a problem with Twitter. We tested it the whole time. I just did test tweets. It was okay. But Down Detector did show not just Twitter, T-Mobile, YouTube had some interruptions. You could see this spike on pretty much everybody. Fox News, T-Mobile, Twitter had the biggest impact. Google had some. You could see that there have been some disruptions. And, again, with everything going on with Twitter, is it natural or is this some sort of, man-made situation? And then Fox News, but not... I don't see MSNBC. I don't see CNN up at the top, So, again, that's part of what's going to be really, really tricky in these times. And again, feel into things. Learn how to feel into these things.
Mm-hmm. As far as the sun goes, I can't speak to anything scientific, but I can read into the energy and try to get an idea of exactly what's going on. And when I looked at the sun and I looked at that vortex and I started to read it and understand it, there's a communication going on between the sun and the earth, Father Sky or Father Sun, Mother Earth. They communicate. They're just like two beings like we are. We communicate. And since there has been so many disruptions lately with the earth and with us and our bodies, there is a correction. There's a correction being made, and the sun is taking the initiative to bring us that correction. So what is that going to look like? It's probably going to be some pretty heavy duty upgrades for us, which can look, it can be a little bit difficult. You want to definitely rest up right now and rest up over the next few weeks to allow these upgrades to enter your own body. As far as Twitter is concerned, I look at most of this as just man-made interruptions. Yeah, sure. It could be the sun bump, but we tested it and it was fine. So I don't know. To me, this might just be them pushing a button to get a little bit of loosh.
Well, again, so much going on in so many different ways on this planet. Now, when we go and look at Turkey, we see 17,000 is the number that's showing up. This is going to unfortunately keep increasing, as this is a massive operation that's going to take a long time to sift through. We really won't know for months and months. And again, keep sending out your prayers, keep sending out your positive energies. Okay, so this one caught my eye. And, gosh, I feel like I want to bring something up again. This one right here, as soon as I saw this, you say, well, it's small. It's a 2.6. Come on, it's a 2.6. It's in an unusual spot. Not that they can't happen here. But again, what do we have here? Virginia Beach, Norfolk. This is a major military base. And you see how it is situated so that I would venture to guess if you wanted there to be significant damage from a wave, you'd want it to be coming out of the northeast to come in and flood. And that might sound crazy to some, but there again, no. The technologies that are in play in these times are greater than most people really realize, and by far, you can't understate that. The technologies that are in play would boggle the mind, even with people that say and acknowledge, well, I guess we probably really are decades ahead of where we are. No, don't think in terms of decades. Don't think in terms of hundreds of years. We're talking thousands, tens of thousands of years of technology ahead of what we are shown. And again, we understand that the vast majority of the world doesn't really understand this. But this to me is a sign of somebody testing waters, and I asked Cindy to see what you could pick up on this as I'm going to look up something else.
Right. So when I looked at this, it feels like somebody is tapping. I call it tapping the area to see where it's going to be affected. Just like when I saw over in Turkey, it's like the energies were being sent around the area, and then they make their way in. They start to create a little bit of a wave, and this wave gets bigger and bigger until it hits its target. So they're tapping. This looks like a testing. This could happen days, weeks in advance, but definitely something that we want to keep an eye on, because somebody, whoever's doing that tapping, they found a spot to move into.
In the past, we had 3.9 blasts that they ended up saying what it was hull testing on the new aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, a shock trial about 100 miles off the coast of Ponce Inlet, Florida. So this is what they said it was. Now, this is how it showed up, and you see Palm Coast. Florida Maquis is living in Palm Coast. I lived in Palm Coast for a while as well. For those of you familiar with his channel, this is right off of this coast. Now, there are sources throughout the years. Deborah T., if you guys know Ms. Tavares, she's brought out that this is part of a plan and part of what will be one of the things that would initiate the third WW at that particular time. And again, we might think it was La Palma that collapsed and caused this massive wave to come in. But again, no, not such the case. Now, what we had picked up from the guides was that this was absolutely them trying to start and initiate the WW hashtag, that third digit, at that point in time a while ago, or at least testing, and it was stopped by the benevolent beings. So as you can see, June 21st, 2021, And yeah, we don't buy the official explanation. I would never buy the official explanation. We must always search what it feels like. This is a microwave HARP weapon that can penetrate the earth and potentially cause earthquakes. Yeah, frequency weapon similar to FIVE, you know what? Much more powerful. Yeah, look at the sizes. This is a human right here. This is probably a 6 foot tall guy. This is massive. This is enormous. And again, this is nothing compared to what is really in play here. Absolutely. We have to wake up to the fact that we are in the middle of an interdimensional, intergalactic war, the likes of which humanity has seen in the past. And it's been terrifying to humanity, just plain and simple.
Mm-hmm. You know, Nostradamus and some of his quatrains are very, very famous when he does speak of the gods shall show a great war. We're going to see things that we've never seen before, and their machinery is going to be on display, and it's going to be just jaw-dropping, but it's also going to be familiar because our DNA records this information. And since we are reincarnated, I'm sure most people that are here listening right now have seen this before. It's going to be terrifying, but sort of familiar.
Yeah, so, there is another seismologist that is saying that there's another potential 7+ that could occur in this particular area in Turkey, as I'm going to scroll out so you can see it. So we can see this is kind of on the other side of Turkey, as the quake that just recently occurred, had affected Aleppo and Gaziantep over here. This is on the other side. Of course, again, the earth is under great strain. And so, we'll see how it manifests. We're going to have to see how things manifest. And before we, do anything else and we shoot on out, this one looks like it's relatively new. 5.5 off the Caribbean side of Honduras. That's curious. But we do have now a dissipation going on in Turkey, thankfully. 12 of 225 quakes are in this area, so that has gone down. And again, please do send your prayers out for everybody that's trying to help save people. We were talking about massive mudslides and flooding in Peru and Bolivia right next door. You have massive floods affecting thousands in La Paz, Beni, and Santa Cruz as well. Send your prayers out to them. It's all over the world. Sulawesi's Mount Karangetang status has increased to alert level 3. Now this one does go off on a regular basis, but we have a lot of other ones going off at the same time. So they tell us Britons will be facing permanent reduction in living standards. Permanent. 7 million households of, I think there's 68 million people in the UK will be affected. Permanent. How about we permanently change the leadership on the planet? That would solve so much, would it not? That is obvious. I hope it's beginning to be the obvious answer to everybody.
I know. It needs to be pulled out by the root.
Yes, by the root. You're not going to fix the system. Californians are pouring into Nevada. Not everybody is happy about that. Yeah, and Nevada as a whole, I just got to share with you my impressions living in Nevada, because we shook a lot. I felt very, very tense, honestly, the entire time in Nevada, too close to military bases. 85% of Nevada is owned by the government. 85% is owned by the federal government. When you look at the size of Nellis, it's just enormous. It's actually bigger than some states. Yeah, it's bigger than Rhode Island. It might be bigger than Delaware too. There's some areas in Nevada that will probably be okay, but the majority, not so much. So, I don't feel great about Nevada. New York City wealth exodus drives billionaires bet over to South Florida. So a lot of, your New York billionaires and money is heading into Florida. Again, Florida is a place that makes Cindy very, very anxious. And one of the reasons why I did leave is because all my visions of when the war was breaking out, WW #3, I was always somewhere in the southeast, and especially in Florida, and I had very, very clear visions of people moving along Florida's Gulf Coast, trying to get up and out of the get up and out of the peninsula, and get up to the Panhandle, and get up to where they could come into more of the continental U.S. And it was just so clear. Timelines do change; they're always changing. And again, we want to wake people up as soon as we can to what's really going on and what has been planned. Every single area we look at is going to have issues. There's no perfect area. You'll find flood zones in states that have no coastline that will be challenging. Again, there is no perfect place, but you got to find out where should you be. Are you fine where you are? Then you're fine where you are. I have a dear brother and sister that are going back and moving back to Florida after having an amazing homestead in North Carolina set up. But they're going back and they're going to be with family members in these times. They're 70, like early 70s and mid 60s. And, their view is they're going to be there with their family members for the times that are coming, even though they have also had all the same visions, all the same, they have all the same expectations of what is likely to come, and still, would choose to be with family. Again, whatever is in your heart, listen to that.
That's what we really need to do in this time. We need to figure out what's okay in our soul. What are we okay with? It is good to look around and ask questions, but ultimately this is your life. It's your journey. It's your responsibility. So find what works for you. And no one has to agree, but you do.
Absolutely. So Mars rover finds rippled rocks caused by waves. Oh, yeah. Again, slow trickle. Yeah, Mars had oceans. Absolutely. Life was abundant. The system on Mars ruined Mars. Well, it's still usable, and there still is mining going on. There are humans and there are reptilians working underneath the surface, still mining Mars, just like Earth has been mined and utilized for her resources. And the same beings want to basically, continue to do their thing to Earth like they've done to Mars, like they did to Nibiru, which Nibiru is just a husk of a planet, really. It's really, truly just a mothership at this point in time. Geneticists puzzled by octopus's unique genes seem to appear out of nowhere. Well, that's because they did. Because, they truly are way more intelligent. Life doesn't have to have two arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, and even just 2 eyes to be intelligent. Oh, no. It's fascinating when you look at them. There's things about them that show that they might be superior to pretty much everything on Earth, or most forms of life on Earth, as far as when you look at things genetically. Nature published the first genome of a cephalopod, California 2-spot octopus. It was a massive undertaking. The octopus genome is comparable to the human genome in size and in complexity. In fact, it has a greater number of protein-coding genes, 33,000 compared to fewer than 25,000 in Homo sapiens. It's really interesting. They have 500 million neurons, 6 times the number in a mouse. The answer is, again, that they are newer comers, so to speak, to Earth, but there's always new forms of life being reseeded after cataclysms.
And these guys were fun because when I started reading their energy, they have a lot of processes. Their thought processes are a lot like ours. Their ability to look at things, reason, understand, calculate, they are a lot like ours. And they do make really good pets if you can establish communication with them. When they realize, wow, this being can talk to me, that's very exciting for them. But you have to be able to make that connection, and not everyone can because they're looking at it like, oh, it's just an octopus. It doesn't understand me. Well, you have to have that convincing, that handshake. I know technology-wise speaking, it's called a handshake, a meeting or a meeting of the minds. And once you do establish that, these could be friends for life.
Absolutely, and believe me, there's many beings out there that say, well, they're only humans. How much do you expect them to really understand?
Right. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, especially when we get certain statements that are done just out of repetition and indoctrination, and without even any understanding of what people are saying. It's sad when people don't even understand what they believe, and they don't necessarily even believe what they believe. They just state it robotically. And here we see some real healing and happiness. This brings back fond memories. And no, not of being brushed myself, no, but of running retirement communities. And oh my gosh, their eyes always perk up when you bring in some beautiful puppies to play and to give love. It's nothing like the true friendship that you get from your canine companions, but you could get that from other animal species as well, because that which resides within is all from source.
Yes, and there's being so many good, happy hormones are being released right now. These beautiful, beautiful pets, doing what they do best, and they're not even aware of how wonderful and brilliant they are, and how many people they're just sitting there being petted, and boy, are they helping so much. And it's just beautiful when you find harmony, and when you find a symbiotic relationship, boy, that can really go far.
Absolutely. So as always, guys, thank you so much for your support over on Patreon and also on Ko-Fi. Check out Medicinal Foods, link on every video. Use coupon code EEA. It will save 10%. And make sure you guys do check out Heart's Home. Many more healing sessions will be happening over there, as that's where we're going to be doing our lives. We'll probably do our initial live on EEARTS and then steer people over to Heart's Home to do healing meditation, mantras, prayer sessions for any specific cause.
Indeed.
God bless and namaste.
Namaste.